basically, I think what a teacher needs is to be self aware. Teaching is a spiritual exercise. You're enabling everyone to learn. One child learns by teaching another, another child learns by learning from a child rather than from a teacher. The Indian thought of, each individual having to evolve in their own ways was something that was a very big influence.
We have educationists, educators, reformers, school leaders who work relentlessly to make learning all inclusive. Holistic experience for the learners and teachers alike. Some kindred souls take this to another level and dedicate their life to complete transformation. Education as it is, and take it to the next level of imparting knowledge to the young, impressionable minds of today. They understand that each students learn differently and thus create an optimal learning environment. Hello everyone, I'm your host Seema Chhoriya and I welcome you all to another insightful session on great principles. Joining me in conversation is my very thoughtful educator of the day, Mrs. Gita Jagannathan. She is founder principal of APL Global School, Chennai, Thoraipakkam. Welcome to Great Principles, ma'am. We're very honored to have you with us.
I'm very glad to be here. It's really nice of you to have me here.
So, ma'am, before I say and I tell more about you, let us hear it from you about your journey. And, we would really like to know how did this young Geeta, who has understood that learning abilities has to be defined as per the child's requirement and has to be the learning pedagogies and environment has to be decided in that manner. So, how did young Geeta envision her journey to be an educator? What inspired you to take up this profession? And what keeps you going in here?
Okay, that's a long, long journey. I'm going to try and condense it for this talk. So it started with my parents, obviously. They are the root cause for everything. They were both educators. My mother was a school teacher and she gave up her profession to raise us because my father had a transferable job and we were in small collieries. That's contributed a lot to my learning. Being in small collieries has really enriched my soul, and that is what I brought into education. My mother believed in tutoring each child individually. She did not have groups of students. When she became a tutor later in her life, after she became a grandmother, she took up tutoring because she couldn't carry on with her school career. And she would insist on having one on one sessions because she said these are children coming to tuitions because they're not able to grasp the concepts in a group setting. So that also set me thinking about personalized learning. And the inspiration for me starting school was basically my daughters. And if I go further back, my siblings, both my siblings were gifted individuals, learning in very different ways, very different personalities. And my sister was a very creative, artistic sort who struggled with mainstream schooling. She was the kind who'd come first in class no matter which school we moved to, up to grade 9, 10. And once she hit adolescence, things changed dramatically. And her struggles also informed some of my decisions as an educator. And then my daughters were both, again, gifted individuals who struggle with mainstream schooling. So I started APL as a solution for my daughter's struggles with schooling. It was through her that I met an educationist, Dr. Vasanti Vasudev, through whom I got introduced to the concept of differentiated learning. And that's where the journey began. After that, of course, I went looking for my own understanding of pedagogies. I did the Cambridge International Diploma for Teachers and Trainers. And then I joined University of Roehampton to do a certificate in special and inclusive education. So all these formal and informal learnings came together. My daughter started her journey initially in KFI, the Krishnamurti Foundation School. So Krishnamurti's thoughts on education were also an influence. Tagore's thoughts on education were also an influence. I found the Indian thinkers far more profound than the Western, though the Western has its place in developing pedagogies. The Indian thought of each individual having to evolve in their own ways was something that was a very big influence. And I think my being a Reiki healer also kind of buttressed that understanding. So that's why my journey began.
Ma'am, hearing you out today, there was one more thing which has been brought up in our conversations that we mothers, especially when we have certain kind of learning, we get
Mm.
connected with other mothers also, other parents also, and we
Yeah.
realize that this is not our pain. This is the pain of the society as a whole, and someone need to take this bold step to ensure that the others do not have to go through the same struggle, similar struggles. So Gita ma'am took a very important step, making learnings from her own experience. She realized that there is a need for special educators, there is a need for creating an inclusive school, there is a need for equal opportunities for all kinds of learners. And this is her journey where she is today, and she has founded this beautiful school called APL. And the school has a very beautiful thought of ensuring that every child learns at per their abilities in the manner that they want to learn. So ma'am, first of all, I would like to congratulate you for taking this up. You are a motivation for so many of us. There is so much that we go through, but none of us has this, this strong impetus to come up and take this step ahead and ensure to benefit the society as a whole. So you are doing it, and I'm really, really honored to have you today in conversation with me.
Thank you. I had this opportunity also because I had the backing of my husband, who's in the construction industry. So he could construct a school for me. The affordability was definitely a factor in starting the school.
Absolutely, ma'am. So when women are supported by the people around them, then miracles
Yeah.
happens, and this is what we
Yeah.
are seeing today. So beautiful thoughts, and we'll continue in our discussion ahead. So, ma'am, as you have seen the inclusion journey, inclusive education, special needs very closely, what do you think, ma'am? Do we have the right kind of schools in our country? That government has made inclusion mandatory in many areas, but
Yeah.
how do you take it up when teachers are not only trained to educate these children? You require altogether different skill set, a high level of patience, a high level of understanding to deal with children, those who have different learning needs. So tell me, ma'am, how do you ensure that that how do we build an inclusive school? What are the need of taking this up, and do you think it's right to have inclusive schools, to have the teachers trained well in all the schools where they have accepted special needs children?
Yeah, we definitely need trained teachers. Special educators also play a role. But then the ultimate goal is where every teacher becomes capable of handling every child, regardless of what their challenges may be. And there is a concept of universal design for learning, which can help every teacher acquire those skills. And that is what we're doing at school. We are now imparting training so every teacher learns these skills. Though we have a huge battery of special educators as of now because our mainstream teachers are still not there. But basically, I think what a teacher needs is to be self aware. I've always said teaching is a spiritual exercise because you need to be able to accept every child no matter how they are. And to be able to do that, you need self acceptance because what you reject in others is what you fear in yourself. So every teacher needs to have a spiritual practice, and the pedagogies and strategic handling of learning disabilities is something that is just a little bit of input that you need. What you need basically is the ability to connect to each child and to see the strengths of the child and work through the strengths on the challenges. And that's what we're doing. By the way, APL stands for Academy for Personalized Learning.
Yeah. So creating a personalized learning environment is what is the core value of APL.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, ma'am, having heard you that how the teachers need to be trained and ensure that they are connected with the students, and then the learning will be happened in the personalized manner. How about evaluating? What is your take on evaluating students so that a real justice can be done, not on the basis of just the learning's outcomes of academics only, but on the other skills also.
I'm not sure what you mean by evaluation. Can you
Ma'am, there is
expound on that a
assessment
bit?
in. Certainly, ma'am. We assess kids on the basis of marks that we give at school levels. There are certain projects what going on, but there is still a need since we say that every child learns differently. So, is there any method that we evaluate and assess them also on different parameters? Can something be woven around it?
Oh, yes. In fact, now in up to middle school, we are moving to portfolio based assessment. So each child creates their own portfolio, and their learning is kind of demonstrated in what they select to put into their portfolio. Mm. You realize from that what is important to them, and so you can tweak your learning materials to suit their needs. And at APL, we don't have rankings. Each child is competing only against themselves. They're only measuring have they progressed since yesterday to something better today. And that I think is very key to development, because when you're comparing yourself, in today's society, we constantly talking of innovation, we're talking of leadership values. How are these going to come if you're going to compare yourself with someone else? It has to be intrinsic motivation, it has to be learning for learning's sake and not for the sake of employment. I think our whole country's education system suffers from this preoccupation with employability. Employability is a byproduct of a good education. And a good education consists of learning what you need to learn, what you need to learn as an individual, not what society determines you learn. We are, of course, adhering to the Cambridge curriculum, so we are not entirely driven by the students' desires on what to learn, but it is still pretty student driven.
I think, ma'am, you have given us a food for thought that what true education is, and you rightly said that education, employment is a byproduct of education, and I think this needs to be taken up very, very seriously. We relate education directly to employment. Is our workforce employable? So educating them in that direction, but we need to make them learners for life, because what is
Yeah.
meaning of employment today is changing the another day. So when a child is has become a lifelong learner, he can take up any skill, and then he is the one who can survive in any situation. And I think I really loved the part where you spoke about the portfolio presentation of each child and let them compete with themselves. This is what is needed to be done. Children of today, they understand very well. They are very smart, they are very
Yeah.
connected to the world, they are open to information, they understand what they need to do, and they even question the vague pattern of assessment. So I think today you have brought up this very beautifully, that this should be taken up. And to all my dear learned educators, each one of us need to understand that this kind of learning will not only make children accountable for the concept clearing, rather the practical applications also. So, ma'am,
Yes.
wonderful practices at APL, and this is something which can be a model for all the schools also to take it up. So, moving ahead in our discussion, we were, in as we were talking about different kind of boards, and there are plethora of some core subjects happening, but yet everyone is still confused about it. So, I would like to know from you, how can we make these existing learning programs more child friendly and make learning fun?
See, I'm not sure we need to make learning fun as such. We need to make learning engaging. And that happens when you give children choices on how they learn. The same concept can be taught through different activities. One can cater to a kinesthetic child, the other can cater to a verbal linguistic child. I mean, not that any child is unidimensionally that trait, but whatever your dominant style of learning, whatever style of learning you prefer and you learn best in, if a teacher can present her learning materials in a different set of choices that children can make, and these choices can be further extended to the assessment as well. You can demonstrate your learning through a role play, you can demonstrate your learning through a paper pencil test, you can demonstrate your learning through an experiment. There's so many ways in which we can teach and assess a child's learning, which makes learning very engaging. Hands-on activities are something that children do prefer by and large. There is an odd child here and there who prefers reading and writing, but by and large, children enjoy hands-on activities, and having collaborative tasks is something, the this is one learning theory that I adore, the zone of proximal development, which is that you are when you are in a peer group, you learn from each other automatically, you imbibe things from each other automatically. And that, I think, happens when you set them group tasks, and when you mix up the groups have individuals with different learning styles and different levels of understanding of the concepts. It works brilliantly, and that's what inclusion is also about. When you're including people with different abilities in the same group, you're enabling everyone to learn. One child learns by teaching another child learns by learning from a child rather than from a teacher. Have I answered your question?
Certainly, ma'am. And research has proven that peer learning is the greatest form of learning.
Yeah,
And yes, I again, there is so much to understand from you, the different methods. As you said, you make learning engaging. It automatically become fun because if the child is engaged, he's interested. And when he's interested,
mm,
he will definitely learn. So this again is a lovely thought that you can engage the children by multiple means. And ma'am correctly said that the best thing is hands-on experience. That is when his all other senses are also engaged. So, ma'am,
yeah,
this is, I think, the right way to proceed when we want to make learning friendly. So, the biggest takeaways from this answer is that ensure that your learning model is engaging. You have a lot of hands-on experience, and you encourage collaborative learning, as ma'am rightly said. So, moving ahead to my next question, ma'am, hearing you till now, I'm sure my viewers would be very much curious about all the achievements that have been and all the accolades that have been received by you. So, rather than me saying it, I would like to know from you what all are the achievements in the full field of education that has been bestowed on you and what they mean to you.
well, the one that mattered most to me was an accolade that we received about a year back from CEII, which was for our personalized learning systems, and one that we received yesterday from Eldrock, again on our environment of creating personalized learning systems. Then there's one that I got from the IFAI, that was for educational excellence in general. These are the three that I can immediately think of. I don't remember anymore. Or maybe there are no more also.
So, ma'am, what do you think, ma'am? That what is the biggest achievement for an educator? And, yes, these awards and recognitions definitely add up to the value that, that the world sees that what you're doing. But what do you think that as an educator, what gives you utmost satisfaction?
What gives me utmost satisfaction is being able to reach every child. At school, we get approached by children who've not fitted into other schools, who've struggled with their learning in other schools. And when they come to us and they fit in and they are happy with their learning journey, that is the most satisfying thing that we have. And going forward, to for me the most satisfying thing will be if more schools in India take up following an inclusive pattern. If we can help in any way with that, we are open to sharing our resources, sharing our knowledge, sharing our experiences. We are there for any school which wants to start inclusive education in its truest form.
Absolutely. So, yes, ma'am, for any educator, the biggest satisfaction would be that they can shape more lives, add more meaning to the people, those who need the path to be shown. So, this is the one thing that every educator believes. And I think what you have just announced, that if any school is looking up for any kind of help, you're very open. And yes, there are so many schools those who are looking forward. And I'm certainly going to get back to you on this, connecting you with
Thank
others
you.
who are
Yeah.
on this journey. So moving ahead now to my rapid fire round. So this round is a very fast paced round. Here you need to answer me in one word or a sentence would also do, right?
Okay.
So my viewers just have heard about your achievements. So I would now ask you to rank in order of how much you enjoy doing these professional courses. BSc Geology, Cambridge International Diploma for Teachers and Trainers, Postgraduate Certificate in Inclusive and Special Education. So rank in the order of enjoyment and learning.
I think the CIDTT first,
Mhm.
and the University of Roehampton Inclusive Education course second, and BSc Zoology the third.
All right. Moving ahead to the next question. If you were not an educationist, what you would be doing right now?
I would probably be a Reiki practitioner doing healing sessions.
Which person in your life has kept you sane during your business lows?
My dearest friend and colleague Aruna Chandrasekhar is the one who's kept me sane. Yeah.
What on your desk is your most favorite thing that never fails to make you smile?
A photograph of my children and my grandson.
Tell us about a funny or a weird incident in your life.
Oh, that I can't tell you in one sentence.
All right,
I'll
I'll give
keep
you
it as
more.
short as I can.
Yeah.
When we first started school, we started in a bungalow which had
Mhm.
an entrance which went three steps down, and then we entered the lobby. And I was driving to school with Aruna. Aruna was driving me rather, and she almost drove off the step. The tire was half on the step, and fellows from the tea stall behind us noticed and came and picked up the car and put it back. That's one of the funniest incidents that's happened, because we both lost in our thoughts and our dreams and vision of what the school is going to be. And yeah, it grounded us promptly, knowing that we were going to drive off the steps.
Certainly, these are the moments in our life which we always remember. And, from that stumbling to where we have reached to the zenith, we keep relating to it and it keeps us going. Moving ahead to
Yeah.
my next question. What kind of recreational activities you indulge in?
Reading primarily,
Mhm.
and I don't know if how this is going to sound, but just idling, just sitting with nothing on my thoughts and allowing my thoughts to ramble on is one of my favorite activities.
I think we all need to do this. We all need to self introspect. It's very much required. Many a times we fail to do this. So this is an activity
Mm.
which actually, channelize a lot of energy in us also and take us
Yeah,
back in the right direction. So I think that's the best way to do it. So moving ahead,
and listening to music.
music.
I
I also
relate
have
to
a problem.
all genres of music, so I love listening to music. It has an instant effect on my mood.
So is there any song which is your favorite and which you hum when you are not, when you are in a mood of joyful mood or something like that?
Oh no, there are multiple songs that pop up every now and then. Sometimes it's a peppy number, sometimes it's a soulful number. It just
Mhm.
depends on my mood.
Okay, and if I ask you what's your mood right now and any song that comes to your mind, which song that would be?
I don't know. My mood right now is upbeat. I'm feeling good about this conversation.
Mhm.
Um, I think the song that comes to mind is Dancing Queen by ABBA.
Wow. This actually charged me up also. So this is the magic of having such a candid conversation. Moving ahead to the last question of this round. One thing about you which many people would not know.
Oh, I don't know. I'm a pretty open book, so I racked my brains as to what it would be that many people do not know, and I can't think of anything. Maybe
Okay.
the fact that if I had a rebirth, I'd want to be born as a musician.
All right, wonderful, great. So it was interesting to know you in this segment. Now we have reached to the last question of the show, which is also called the viewer's choice question. So, ma'am, the pandemic was occurred suddenly, and all of our life came to a halt. There has been a lot of mental, emotional effect also on all of us, and especially the children, those who were caged inside the nest and they were not ready. They were not allowed to move out. They
Yeah.
have been gone through a lot. There have been learning gaps. Now schools have reopened again. They are not able to cope up. Yet the examinations are on the clock. There is so much going on, all these little minds. So, ma'am, tell me something. How can we improve mental well-being of ourselves and our children? And I've heard, I'm not very much aware about the Reiki practice, but what I've heard is, it helps you calm down. It helps you to, just focus and strengthen yourself, give you a deep sleep. So, can we have any kind of these things, practices which can help us and our children also?
Coming to Reiki is something that is done by choice, and it's a very deep spiritual practice. So I don't know if I would recommend it for children. For children and for adults, for any age group at all, I think it's connecting to your breath. If you can just sit and watch your breath, not try regulating it, but just watch your breath for 5-10 minutes a day, that will work magic on your mental status. It is a very calming practice, and the regulation automatically happens. When you're just watching your breath, you can feel your breath slowing down. And when you slow down your breath, your mind automatically calms. If you've noticed, it's when you're angry or agitated that your breath becomes short. So, the longer your breath, the calmer your mind, and that happens when you're just watching your breath. And maybe you can try regulating it. Take long, deep inhales and long, deep exhales, not thinking of anything, trying to keep your mind blank. Thoughts will rush in because we're human, but don't try to resist those thoughts also. The idea is to accept things as they are.
Mhm.
I think that acceptance will lead to self acceptance ultimately. And there's nothing better than self acceptance to allow you to accept the world as it is.
I think, ma'am, that is the biggest thing that many people do not accept. And that is
Hmm.
where the all entire cause of sadness, and they're always gloomy because they're not ready to accept the realities. So, ma'am,
Yeah.
and there are a lot of people, those who overthink. So, how do you
Hmm.
avoid this overthinking? And this is being, I'm seeing children, I'm observing small kids, even they overthink. So,
Hmm.
how, we control all this? Breathing exercises are one of the things that, as you suggested, but how do you keep your mind from, not overthinking?
Get into physical activity. Doing pottery, clay work is very calming. It can draw you into it completely. Doing gardening, working with the soil, just the tactile input is enough to calm you down. So, any physical activity can draw you out of yourself and avoid your being lost in your thoughts or overthinking. Being lost in your thoughts is calming again.
Yeah.
It's it's being engaged in uh, analysis that is leading to overthinking.
Absolutely,
So
ma'am. I
doing
think
any physical activity, I think, is calming.
Yes, and
If you're lucky enough to have a water body in your locality, going and playing in the water is very calming.
so I have a small garden in my terrace, and when I see my kids appreciating how the small plant has grown up, when they water it, every morning they'll get up and see, is there a new flower today? So, they kind of connect with those plants and
Mm.
understand the meaning of life. So they also, start to indulge themselves in different thought process rather than being stuck where. So I think gardening definitely works because I've tried it myself.
Yeah,
And earlier you were talking about music. Music is actually very, very deep. So I think, we all must ensure that either of the activities, physical activities, and these beautiful things like gardening, having a pet in the house, or, music,
yeah.
if we could have these things connected to our children, that will help them in long run to stay calm. So,
Yeah, at school we have a regenerative agriculture practices garden. So we call it, the project goes by the name Eat Your Own School Garden.
wow.
So our children get to harvest whatever they grow and take it home and cook it and eat it. And that definitely helps in their personality. They see how plants collaborate with each other because it's a regenerative practice, so it's not a monoculture. So they're
And
seeing how different plants are helping each other blossom, and it's a beautiful experience for them.
absolutely, ma'am. They don't only taste awesome, the feeling that you have seen it growing,
Yeah.
that is, just such a beautiful thing because when you even have, when they have even a small fruit plucked and they eat themselves, they realize, oh, yes, this tastes much better than what I buy from market and
Yeah.
just have it. So, yes, it really has a very deep meaning. So, ma'am, I can just go on and on. There is so much to learn from you, and there is so much more to this conversation. But yes, we need to halt somewhere. I love to have you again to understand more on different ideologies. So, ma'am, you are one of those educators who has taken a step towards an integrated schooling format that embraces children from all the walks of life, ensuring equal and inclusive learning opportunities through your vision and mission at APL. And I highly appreciate your endeavors in, training teachers and guiding people, helping out parents, and especially the blessed ones, the one those who have special kind of needs. So thank you so much for your time with us, sharing your thoughts. I'm sure today was a very special episode on great principles. My viewers are going to cherish this. They have the learnings for their life today. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I've really enjoyed this conversation. As you said, we could go on and on. Thank you.
Thank you
Bye.
so much.